Um, this episode, I fucked up. I accidentally mixed up FX with AMC whenever I was talking about The Walking Dead. I would like to now take the opportunity to take my slander off of FX and go ahead and put it on AMC. AMC can go fuck itself for what they did to The Walking Dead.
R.I.P. George Romero, first of all.
Start the fuck over.
Welcome to the Graveyard Shift. I'm Enrique.
You can't open like that.
That's Cody. And today we're doing Zombies Part 2. For those of you, for whatever fucking reason, you haven't listened to the previous episode, we talked about the origins of the concept of a zombie, which come from the Haitian voodoo culture. And today we're gonna come full circle and talk about the origins of the American concept of zombies, which come from the works of George Romero. Rest in peace.
That's not how you open a podcast.
Why not? Let's just run with it. So
that's no way to honor the dead.
Oh, he'll be back.
Fuck you.
So Cody, just still like tie in the previous episode. Cody saw the 1988
Serpent in the Rainbow,
which is a very artistic interpretation of the book by Wade Davis, The Serpent and the Rainbow, which is about his journey to Haiti to get the zombie powder. We talked about it in the previous episode. And Cody, how'd you feel about that movie, Cody?
It's the first thing they're gonna hear.
So how'd you feel about that movie, Cody? You said there was an awesome genital mutilation scene.
There's a part.
You said that.
There's a chorus. And she stretches her jaw out. And she shoots a snake. And then he gets buried.
Cody, come on. Tell us about the serpent and the...
I can't breathe.
Just tell us about the serpent and the rainbow,
It's too
Cody.
spooky.
You said you liked the part about the hand.
It's a lot of hands. He's in jail. They're all trying to grab him.
Okay, we'll come back to the serpent and the rainbow when Cody is a bit more coherent.
He can't stop.
But I want
You fucking started.
stop. Don't mention that, Cody. We've moved past that, Cody.
I can't.
So in preparation for this,
Straight for it.
I rewatched Night of the Living Dead, and I was really pleasantly surprised with how good it and how much it held up. It actually had me at the edge of my seat for a good chunk of it. It was so. Just to preface this, Night of the Living Dead was George Romero's first. I guess it's his unofficial zombie movie because he doesn't consider it a zombie movie. But it was
his first Living Dead film.
It was his first Living Dead film, and it came out in 1968. A lot of interesting history wrapped up in this movie. But just a general summary of it, Night of the Living Dead is about brother and sister who go visit their mother's grave and are attacked by what George calls a ghoul, that will later be known as, which is just the start of zombies. They get attacked by a zombie, but it kind of, the zombie kills her brother. She goes to a farmhouse nearby, and then she ceases to be the main character when the main character, I forget his name, but is played by Dwayne Jones, and they fight. Him and the other survivors that happen to be hiding in the basement argue about how to try to survive this whilst the house is being surrounded by ghouls, aka zombies. But that's the basic summary of the movie. It is really important if you like zombies, because this is the first time we see. This is just the beginning of it all.
This sort of lays the groundwork.
Yeah, unintentionally so. As we mentioned, George Romero in the past episode, George Romero was a big fan of
Haitian voodoo, Haitian zombies, and the whole idea of those, and he felt like what he was making was something entirely different.
Yeah, he wanted to, I think it was originally called Night of the Flesh Eaters.
Yeah.
And it was
because Haitian voodoo doesn't have anything with the zombified people trying to eat anybody.
Yeah.
That was never a thing until, of course, they started making the movies about it that were just sort of to bash voodoo, zombieism, and they turned him into these flesh-eating, mindless monsters.
Exactly. And so yeah, Romero made Night of the Living Dead, and it had a lot of big impacts for a lot of reasons that he didn't plan at all. Romero is kind of how do I put this? He's kind of like,
a lot of his meaning falls into his lap.
Yeah, he kind of Forrest Gumps his way to film history.
Yes.
And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. He never, he always owned up to it. He was always very,
Yeah, he never acted like it was something he did on purpose.
Yeah,
every time he'd say it, he's just like, well, I made a movie every 10 years. I happened to be in the middle of that thing. I wrote about what was going on. I wrote from the perspective of somebody living in the era. That's what happened. It became a cultural phenomenon.
Exactly, yeah. That's why I do have respect for Romero, because he just kind of owned up to it. In a lot of interviews, he'll talk about what we're going to tell you about this movie today. Basically, one of the big takeaways from Night of the Living Dead, aside from the concept of a zombie, was that the main character was black, African American. And he that wasn't really a thing in 1968.
Yeah.
And also, it's worth noting that, when they, got the movie to print around that time, I think he tells an anecdote where him and his filming partner were, in a car with the, final cut of the movie, and then they heard over the radio that Martin Luther King had been shot, and they, I think that's when it suddenly dawned on them, the significance of their, having an African-American protagonist.
Yeah.
Yeah, because George Romero didn't intend that at all. He, why did they... I mean, there's not much...
It happened to be that it was an actor he knew. It was an actor he enjoyed working with. And
Dwayne Jones?
Yeah, Dwayne Jones. He wrote the role for a Caucasian male, basically under the idea that, pretty much anybody could play it. He's an everyman. He's anybody who would be in that situation and be the person that would make those decisions. It just happened to be that the actor he found as an African-American...
was the best actor of his group of friends.
Was the best actor of his group of friends, and he is a fucking fantastic actor.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the things I actually heard about it was whenever he was told this, as he sat there, he's like, what do you mean I'm gonna, slap a white woman?
Yeah.
What? You're putting that in the fucking movie? And they were like, yeah, let's just go for it. Everything's gonna be fine.
Yeah, they really had no idea. That's kind of the fun thing about George.
Super oblivious.
I wouldn't even say that. I think Romero was just kind of a really...
I think he was just excited.
Yeah, he was just a really, exciting dude. I was reading a lot about him before Night of the Living Dead, what his career was like before that, and turned out he was just, kind of a student in, No, I think he was just in Pittsburgh. I think
he was doing a lot of commercials.
Yeah, well, the thing is that I found interesting was that, before he even did commercials, what he would do is he would just go to film labs that were in the area that, would cut film for, the local news stations or whatever, and he'd just hang out. He wasn't being paid to do anything. He was just hanging out with the guys, learning how to do stuff, being everyone's friend. He was just that kind of a dude that would just, walk in, get to know everybody.
He enjoyed the scene.
Yeah, people just, I don't know, it's hard to explain. People just wanted to help him. Like, he was just a friendly guy. Like, people didn't mind having him around. And I think that's like...
I was going to say, that also comes across a lot in the movie, because the reason he has all these helicopters, all these news crews and stuff like that, is those are people in the, like, Boston area where he was filming. They were like, oh, I'd fucking love to be a part of a movie. Put me in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it was a real...
They had a real... Their news anchor is a real news anchor.
Yeah.
Who came out, and he was like, yeah, he was the most excited guy to be there, because he just loved to be filmed.
Exactly. Like, it's...
He wasn't acting. He was just him.
It's really cool. Like, it's kind of like a sweet home feel that you get when you watch these movies, because it's just a community made movie. Like, all the people in Pittsburgh just kind of came together
to be like, this is the Pittsburgh movie.
Yeah, I think they got money from his uncle to they got money from his uncle to start his initial. He used to make industrial films and commercial films. That's where he got to start in film. Yeah. And then he kind of got money
did the Mr.
together.
Rogers. The fucking scariest episode of Mr. Rogers that's ever existed. What is it?
The Mr. Rogers tonsillectomy.
Tonsillectomy, yeah.
Yeah, it's a fever dream of an episode.
Oh my god.
Just
it just fucks with you.
I don't like to think about Mr. Rogers getting a tonsillectomy. He also, I don't know how. Like, okay, so I was looking. I googled Romero's filmography, and I saw that he had one for The Juices on the Loose. He just did a documentary on O.J. Simpson before all the O.J. Simpson stuff.
Yeah.
Back just him being a football player.
Back before it was, him doing that would have been a horror story.
Yeah. Yikes. But yeah, no, again, Romero was just this guy. Him and his friends basically rented out the house that's the main, set for the entire movie.
Yeah. And they didn't even really have a good way to get there. Then they had one of the dudes actually, build a bridge. A little bridge that they could get cars across.
That, and they also just had to live there. They were living in that, shitty
little farmhouse.
The entire time, because...
The place that's supposed to look scary and claustrophobic in the film is where they lived.
That they're tearing apart furniture to bar the windows and everything. Yeah, that place was where they were living in, the couple of months it took to film the movie.
That had to be a blast.
Yeah. No, but it's just really interesting. There's a lot of fun behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
I think he was always really surprised that people were really willing to eat at the raw meat, the zombie.
Yeah, the people that brought in from the butcher's shop.
Yeah.
Brought in all the meat, and that was those weren't even actors. Those were just a bunch of people they put in zombie makeup and had shamble around and eat meat.
Yeah. It's really interesting. It's actually really funny too, because of all the there are a lot of things that I noticed that I picked up on that during the movie that I realized don't really carry over in the zombie mythology that I thought were really funny that I'd mention, that apparently the zombies or the ghouls in Night of the Living Dead were caused by radiation from Venus. I'm not kidding. In the early news reports, because one of the things I really liked about this movie was the way it kind of told you what was going on. Was that it kind of simultaneously had the main characters experience the attacks, but at the same time they also had a radio where they would listen to the news, make reports about what they refer to as homicides. But there was a part where they talk about how I think it was a satellite probe came back from Venus with strange radiation, and that's what was causing the people to become homicidal. I'm not kidding. That's in the movie. And another thing is that I realized actually did carry over till Dawn of the Dead is that the zombies are afraid of fire. It's very vaguely mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, Dawn of the Dead.
They have blowtorches.
I can remember. Yeah, they have the blowtorches when they're running around
in the mall.
The specific parts in the mall. Whenever they got the dude in the cart.
Yeah.
And they're pushing him around, and they got the blowtorches to scare him away. And then one of the idiots drops the blowtorches, and it becomes a whole thing.
It becomes a whole thing. But yeah. That's really. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, and that actually does eventually carry on to some other zombie movies.
Yeah,
within the genre. Is when you look at Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and Day of the Dead, they sort of set the whole groundwork for what an American zombie becomes.
Yeah, in a lot of really interesting ways.
Yeah,
but Night of the Living Dead just was kind of this unintentional hit that got really popular through again. Forrest Gump-esque, unintentional, happy accidents.
Yeah.
One of the things, as I mentioned, the movie was originally called Night of the Flesh Eaters. And the way it became Night of the Living Dead was that the film company that was distributing the film thought that Night of the Living Dead was a better name, so they just switched the title card out. But the only place that Romero and his crew had put the copyright, any sort of a copyright logo on the film, was on the Flesh Eater's title card. So by law, since there was no sign of copyright on the film, it became public domain. So that's kind of how the movie got a lot more widespread attention, and it even made its way overseas, which is kind of how we'll explain later. But he ended up getting funding for Dawn of the Dead. I don't know if you know about that, but yeah, it kind of has to do with.
Well, his funding for Dawn of the Dead wasn't that.
No, it was. I'll explain more, but it was mostly that there was a French filmmaker, I believe, that was just like, hey, I really love Night of the Living Dead. Here's this amount of, how much money will it take for me to make you get the next movie out? And he's like, I don't know. And then he's like, here, just come to Rome for a while, live in Rome, and write the next zombie movie. And he did, and that's how we get Dawn of the Dead. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's really weird. So because of that, Night of the Living Dead got like a wider release. And it's really notable that if you look in, you could find this review online, but Roger Ebert did a review of Night of the Living Dead that's mostly him explaining that kids accidentally went to go see this movie in a matinee show with like Frankenstein or something, and they were like horrified and vomiting and crying and screaming through the entire thing.
And it was fantastic.
But it's pretty funny. Just the idea.
It was amazing how much of like a flip this was for movies. It was something that came in, and a bunch of people were used to your like Monster of the Month movie. You go in and it's a little spooky. It doesn't really hurt anybody. It doesn't really touch anybody. And the next thing you know, you have these dead people literally just consuming other people and ripping them apart and getting hands destroyed while people try to chop down doors and shit like that. And it was just an absolute culture shock.
Yeah, and I mean, there was a lot of things because, like as we mentioned, it was the first movie, like, and it wasn't. It was kind of probably one of the only movies at the time that had an African American lead, and the movie wasn't about that at all.
Yes, it didn't even glance over it. It just acted like it treated the movie like he was a person.
Yeah, and it was really interesting too because as I was rewatching it, I could like almost feel like it felt a lot more like a commentary about race than it actually was, because the entire movie is this African American lead arguing with this balding white family man about how to run or how to survive this epidemic, and that's all it is. And then the white man is just really like bitter that everyone is like siding with the African American man, so it almost reads like a commentary, but it isn't really one at all. It's again, it was written for like I guess a Caucasian man, but it just happened that he was African American.
Yep.
And they didn't really realize. Well, I guess the ending was the final nail, like the final thing that really solidified it and made it seem like one. Because again, like spoiler. It's a spoiler to
spoiler alert. Most of the movies we talk about, we're probably going to talk about the endings, talk about things that happened in the end, because those are sometimes some of the most important parts of these movies. That's the big takeaway.
Especially Night of the Living Dead, because before rewatching it, I kind of was like, I was kind of confused as to how people like I didn't really, I had trouble believing that it was like a commentary or people could see it as any sort of commentary. But I saw the, like, rewatching it, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Because the ending is basically like, cuts to basically the only survivor left in the house is the African American man. He's in the basement, and then the humanity's kind of beating the ghouls. There's like roving packs of white men with guns, killing them and throwing them onto fires, and it feels very like a good old boy country men just going around the fields with guns. And basically, this Dwayne Jones, our main character, looks at sees this, comes out from the basement, is like looking out the window to try to see what's going on. One of the men sees him, headshots him, one shot, and that's just it. And then the rest of the movie is like almost, I don't know, it really stuck with me because what I thought was really interesting, because the credits are just still frames of them carrying this Dwayne Jones body out of the house and throwing it onto a pyre, like white men with guns and dogs carrying a African American corpse. That's It's pretty intense imagery, man.
Yeah.
Like, you could see that out of, like, just a history film or something. But, yeah, that's Night of the Living Dead. Is there anything else you wanted to add about that? Nah. Alright, cool. Because then now we can... So we can cut... Like, this transition's a little bit interesting, too, because we're going to talk about Night of the Living Dead and Return of the Living Dead. Whew. I guess, well, fuck, I feel bad. I still haven't seen Return of the Living Dead. I've only seen clips. I had trouble finding a copy that I could see, that I could watch. You saw part of it.
I saw half of it because the copy that I got was actually so badly scratched from how many people had gotten it from the video store that it just didn't work.
Yeah. It sucks, but that really sucked. But, the reason that Return of the Living Dead is worth mentioning, there's a lot of reasons, because Return of the Living Dead is where we get, like, other zombie tropes that are, I'd say, a little bit more contended in the zombie community. Like, are a little bit more
It's
contentious.
where you start getting the idea somewhat of, like, video game zombies.
Yeah,
it's
actually,
the
that's a
zombie
good way.
that it puts a lot of impact on the zombies themselves.
Yeah.
Because Return of the Living Dead, the zombies have a lot of character.
Yeah.
Each of the zombies kind of has a thing it does, and it visibly does. Whereas you have, like, say, Day of the Dead, where you look at the zombies and the way they dress is you see that and you're like, oh, that's the way those zombies are.
Well, that's more in Dawn of the Dead.
Well, Day and Dawn.
Nah, oh, yeah.
Day definitely has a lot more, like, costumey zombies. Like, you could sort of tell what they're wearing based on who they are, etc. But Return of the Living Dead is where you start getting the zombies that they talk. They do other things. They
this is where we get the brains.
They shuffle, they moan, they cry, they call out for brains.
They run, they're strong.
They're awesome.
They're kind of intelligent, too.
Oh, they're extremely intelligent.
The part where
they can communicate.
The tar man is using a wench to try to...
Yeah. And whenever he's, like, trying to pull the door open with the chain.
That was fucking ridiculous.
Also, one of my absolute favorite fucking zines, honestly, almost in any zombie movie ever, is from Return of the Living Dead, and it's whenever they have the zombie that's eating the paramedic on the floor, and he's, like, chewing his brains out, and then they start calling on the radio, are like, do we need to send in more paramedics? Do we need to send in more paramedics? And he gets up and, like, shuffles his way over and picks it up, and he's like, send more paramedics. And it's just like, dude! And it's awesome.
So, okay, real quick, before we, like... Well, I mean, anyway. So, the reason why... There's a lot of reasons why Return of the Living Dead is worth mentioning. I think the most important is that it was co-written by the guy who co-wrote Night of the Living Dead. Basically, Romero's partner in writing that movie and filming it, they split ways after that. And John Russo went to do his thing, which is Return of the Living Dead. And then Romero, like I said, he got an offer to go to Rome and write Dawn of the Dead, basically. And that's what he did. And it's really interesting because Romero's thing was like, he's really like, once he accepts the zombie thing, like that's his thing and that's what he's going to run with. Well, I mean, he still tries to make other movies, but when he like decides that I'm gonna make a zombie film, he sticks to
that's when he decides to start calling those films zombie films.
Yeah, the Dead films.
Yeah, and
he sticks to certain like tropes, pretty like what's the word that we use? He had kind of more integrity about it.
Yeah,
he wanted them to be taken a little bit more seriously. He thought like zombies should be scary not because they're strong and fast, but because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
And that the reason people end up dying is not because zombies are unbeatable, but it's because we can't work together. Which is, again, he kind of like he had kind of more messages sewn into the movies than the movies were really about.
Yeah, the messages weren't really supposed to be too much at the forefront.
Yeah. Except
a lot of the stuff that he thought was like wink wink nudge nudge was blatantly fucking obvious in the imagery.
Yeah, and it's like people hold it up pretty like,
and people treat it like it's the most important part.
Yeah, like that's the entire like movie. Like the entire movie was this like thesis statement about.
No, it's not.
Those tones are in there.
It's a zombie film that has those tones if you want to see them.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be about that.
Yeah.
And then Return of the Living Dead, like, I watched a documentary about it, or bits and pieces of one, and he just blatantly is like, yeah, I'm not Romero. I don't care. I think zombies can be fast. I don't care. I think zombies can be strong, and they can talk, and they can do things, and brains.
Brains. Yeah, because zombies are, like I said, they have a lot more character.
Yeah.
They're a lot more, like, every single one of them is an individual, I'd say almost like enemy.
And I think, I don't know, the thing that also bugged me too was that, well, not bugged me, but I thought it was kind of funny, was that Return of the Living Dead makes a lot of references to Night of the Living Dead as a movie.
As a movie, yes. As a movie that is, like, based off of a real event that they made them, like, change the, like, story of.
Yeah.
One of my favorite scenes. Every time I talk about Return of the Living Dead, the good portion of it that I have seen, every single fucking thing that happens in that movie concretes itself as one of my favorite zombie scenes in anything ever, because it's just stellar.
Yeah.
They have a scene where one of the main characters, he's working in a medical supply facility where they supply, like, cadavers and stuff like that. And then he's just sitting there talking with one of the guys who has worked there for a while because he's the new guy. And the other guy's like, hey, man, you want to check something out? You know that Night of the Living Dead movie? Well, that was based off of a real thing that happened, but they actually threatened to sue their asses off, so they actually changed the story. You want to know what's crazy? We got one of them downstairs. So then they go downstairs, they go to check on the zombie, and just one of the funniest goddamn lines in existence. Amazing delivery. The young man looks over and he's like, oh my god, dude, that thing's in there. Are you afraid it's gonna break? And he's like, huh, it's American built. There's no way this baby's gonna break. And he bangs his fist on it and it breaks and shoots all this gas all over both of them that comes from the zombie, and they fall down and knock over one of the barrels that makes the stuff that sets the zombies off. And then they go upstairs and they have all these, like, half-cut dogs. So, like, veterinarians can look at them, and there's a part where they walk over, and one of them's, like, yipping and barking, and so they have to, like, stomp the shit out of it. And then one of the cadavers gets out of the room. They go up. They call another guy in. They all chop up the cadaver and take it apart, and it's still, like, moving and twitching around. So then they take it next door, at which point they go ahead and take it to have it cremated. Right. And when they get it cremated, they're like, make sure you burn down the ashes, destroy all of it. We don't want any proof. And then all of that sort of goes off into the air. All of that goes off and makes this acid rain. The acid rain falls down on this graveyard that all these kids are hanging out in. Yeah. All the zombies come out of the graveyard. It's just so shticky, and it's fun, and it's goofy, and the zombies are awesome. The zombies are great. The characters are great. They're all just fucking ridiculous.
But
and it's awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, I love this movie.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I would just switch over to Night of the Living Dead for a bit then, because I mean, in all honesty, it's not my favorite.
Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, I didn't think Night of the Living. Oh, Dawn of the Dead. I love Night of the Living Dead. Dawn of the Dead. Sorry. Yeah, it wasn't exactly my favorite. I think I'd argue that it was a bit too long. But just a quick plot summary. Dawn of the Dead is about is kind of like the zombie apocalypse has been going on. People are like, there's still a little bit of order in society left because it starts off in this TV studio. One of the workers is friends with these riot police, and then it like we see them at work for a bit, and then they're like swatting.
As you say, they basically do a house raid on an apartment building.
On an apartment building where they think they're holding zombies, and it's kind of like the thing where it's like they're like, oh, we could probably cure them. They're just our relatives. We got to like try to figure out how to like fix them. But then the riot police are kind of cold, and they're just like, no, they're monsters. We have to kill them. There's a really cool headshot.
There's an amazing headshot.
But
Tom Savini is a god.
Yeah, this is probably like the beginning of like the Tom Savini like really good special effects.
Yeah,
because I'd say that's what really saves this film. Because it's really weird. Because Dawn of the Dead is like, it's supposed to be funny or goofy. It's lighthearted, but I don't know. I don't think it holds up as like a funny, goofy movie as much as Return of the Living Dead does.
Yes, by comparison, it feels very stilted.
No, I
don't know. It feels distant.
I think it just feels like it wasn't able to decide what it was trying to be.
Yeah.
Like, cause so the bulk of the movie is the riot police and this lady that works at the news station. They steal a helicopter from the news station and they set off. And they end up at a mall basically, and then the first half of the movie, and I think it drags on a bit, but I'm sure people will very angrily disagree with me. But it's them like establishing that the mall is kind of a safe place, and then they're realizing how to like navigate the mall and figuring out what they can do to like make the mall livable and like protectable. So it's like scenes of them killing zombies, emptying the zombies out of the mall, basically. For some reason, putting them in a fridge, even though there's like food in the fridge.
Oh yeah, like every time they kill one, they throw it in the fridge.
Yeah, they do like. There's like a scene where they're cleaning up the entire mall, but yeah, and then their peace gets ruined because logically the woman wants to learn to fly the plane also, just in case like something goes wrong. And as they're practicing, a like band of motorcycle dudes kind of like finds out that they're hanging out in the mall, so the motorcycle dudes go to try to take the mall. There's just kind of like fight for the mall that's like really weird and ridiculous. This is like the comedy of the movie, in more or less, because
there's like pie throwing.
There's pie throwing.
Like
there's also just like kind of funny zombie stuff throughout. Like they're just kind of messing with the zombies for no good reason.
Yeah, because the zombies are very slow and like lethargic, and these guys have motorcycles. And it also is sort of the idea these guys have been doing this for a really long time.
Yeah, they're like just kind of like desensitized to it all.
Yeah.
And it's like fun scene. It's like the four or so people from the beginning of the movie are like trying to like. At first they're just trying to hide out, but then one of the guys I think it's Flyboy. He gets like kind of pissed and he decides like, no, this is our place. So they start trying to fight back, but everyone ends up losing, and two of the characters leave.
Yeah.
They take the helicopter. It was good that she learned to fly because her and then another character take the plane and head off with little to no gas in the plane to uncertainty.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the movie. I think I like Dawn of the Dead, and I think it's really important to the zombie culture because, or it's like you can see a lot of zombie. I think this is like the movie.
See, this is the one where people look to this and start really branching off from it and making their own thing.
Yeah,
you see a lot of the mall in video games. You see a lot of the mall in other movies.
Not specifically, like you do see the mall sometimes, but what you really do see is this like. Because Romero originally planned for the movie to be like have a really sad ending, not sad ending, but serious ending, where like the remaining survivors commit suicide on the helicopter.
That's where the headshot head comes from.
Yeah, that's where the headshot head comes from. But the idea was like they commit suicide because they kind of realize the hopelessness of the situation. Because again, there's undertones of George Romero like trying to put a theme in there, which was that when this movie was made. He was around the first time that the first shopping malls were being like built, and he's like, "Oh, this is probably gonna become a thing. I'm gonna make a movie about consumerism." The entire takeaway of the movie is consumerism is bad, and you see that because zombies are. We're the zombies in the mall, but
we are the Walking Dead.
So a lot of the movie after they've cleaned up, or as they're cleaning up the mall, is them kind of just enjoying the fact that they can just take whatever they want from the mall, and it's just kind of like this is where you get this kind of fantasy that I say prevails a lot in the future zombie stuff. That the apocalypse is something you want to happen because it's
the apocalypse. That's the idea that it like. Could have something that sort of counts as a bit of a positive.
Yeah.
Like, you'll find the light in anything.
Well, I'd say it's more that, like, it's this fantasy of that, like, when society crashes, you're going to be the survivor because you're the special one, and you're going to get to have the fun where you have, like, guiltless violence. You get to, like, just go have anything you've ever wanted at the mall that you couldn't afford or whatever. You get this, like, kind of fantasy from it.
Although... the portion you're talking about does have one of my favorite lines out of any of the Living Dead movies, which is whenever the dude's taking all the cash out of the register and the other guy walks up behind him, he's like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? And he turns around and he's like, you never know.
And I think that sums up the movies.
It does.
That's it in a nutshell. It's like that kind of like cockiness is like, I'm sure everything's going to work out just fine.
Yeah, but what I do enjoy about Dawn of the Dead is that it doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
They all sit there and they say, nah, dude, we got this, and they get fucked.
Yeah, they get fucked. It does, like we've said before, Romero's movies, he kind of likes the theme of that, like, or he likes it that the zombies aren't that big of a threat. The bigger threat is that we can't work
fuck up.
Yeah, and that people just can't work together, that they get cocky and that they're selfish and they end up, like, killing themselves that way. when the threat is really manageable, basically.
Yep.
And that's Dawn of the Dead, and I think you'll see a lot of ripples of that and like a lot of other stuff. I think I'd say like
examples.
Zombieland probably is a big example of that. How like a lot of that there's like portions of that where they're like just in. It seems they're having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think even the Walking Dead TV show more than the comic is about like in certain ways.
Well, at points.
At points.
It starts doing that post season 1.
Well, I think certain characters like kind of exemplify that more. Like just you can see by how people like just love Daryl basically because it's like I don't know. I think deep down people think they'd be that character for whatever reason.
People like the idea of like, oh, I'd be Daryl.
You'd be Daryl or you'd be Rick.
I'd be fucked up and running around with a bunch of ears on my necklace.
Yeah, or you'd be Rick. You'd be the guy that like for all your failings everyone respects or whatever. Like
you'd be Shane.
You'd be Shane. No, Shane at least gets women. You'd probably be Carl.
One. And no, it's Rick's.
The thing is, I don't know. I think most people would probably end up just being zombies if the zombie apocalypse ever happened.
Well, that's kind of the way it works. Like 80% of people would become zombies.
And that's what I'm saying. It's a fantasy that you want to believe that you're the protagonist. That
I want to be a Return of the Living Dead zombie. I want to be Tank Zombie.
Oh,
I want to be Tarman.
Tarman. Oh, I love Tarman. Like that's like some of the best effects I've ever seen.
That is one of my favorite fucking zombies because the face is just freaky to look at and it's awesome and he's all falling apart.
Yeah.
He eats the most annoying character in the movie.
The way it walks is done really well.
Yeah, and I like how he walks, and I love what I really, really do enjoy about some of these classic zombie films via like Romero and Return of the Living Dead is the amount of love they give to their effects.
Yeah.
Because they take their effects, their practical effects, to them are so important. Like, you'll have the part where the Tarman kind of walks up and he's got his arms all curled in front of himself, and then he goes spread eagle so you can see that his arms are falling apart and they're dangling and just like all these fleshy strips just hanging down.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
A lot of zombie movies now don't take that appreciation into their zombies.
Yeah.
They don't go through the trouble of being like, look at this wicked fucking headshot. They're like, oh, we'll put the headshot in post.
Yeah.
We need to get the characters to get past this so that they can go kill more zombies.
Or they'll put in the blood in post, which is like my least favorite thing because it just never looks convincing.
The blood cloud.
Yeah, it's just terrible. But all
you need is the quarter, string, and a wax. The Tom Savini method makes some of the best headshots in the game.
Yeah, it's enough. Like you don't. I don't know. It just makes me sad.
Yeah.
I think practical effects.
Also, the sweet ass puppeteering in Day of the Dead.
Oh yeah, we're almost there.
All right.
But yeah, no, Dawn of the Dead is the Romero movie. It's the one
zombie movie, honestly.
Yeah, for all of its failings, it's like the movie that defined zombies, and I think that you could still see its influence to this day. Oh, and something I caught on my rewatch of it too was that they do make a reference to Haitian voodoo in Dawn of the Dead. There's a part where the African American riot police guy, I forgot his name, he when he says, "When there's no more room in hell, the dead shall walk the earth." Yeah. He says that his uncle said that, or used to say that, and his uncle was a voodoo priest. So they do mention it.
Okay,
yeah. And they do use the torches, so some of the stuff does weirdly carry on.
Kind of transfer over, but like tongue in cheek.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Romero always like he did it all right. I think he did it all right.
Oh no, he did great. I love George Romero movies.
Yeah.
I do, but
well,
they do have their faults.
Up until Land of the Dead. But Mitch was good. No, Martin
was good. So was Creepshow. Creepshow was good.
Yeah, Creepshow was good.
His take on Mad Max was
Yeah. Night Riders?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just like Mad Max.
I know. But yeah, is that all for Dawn of the Dead?
I think so.
I think so, right? If not, I'm sure we could just toss it into the next part because we're not out of Romero's. We're not out of Romero's country just yet. We got one. Well, there's technically 4 more, but I think we could just like do shots off.
I'd say let's go ahead and go up to Day because everything past that is honestly post Romero.
Yeah, I want to mention it just because it's worth mentioning, and I also do want to like talk about the Dawn remake.
Oh no, I know. You just know how I feel about Zack Snyder.
I know, but I think it's worth mentioning.
I know.
And I think the Dawn of the Dead remake really like takes those little things we mentioned, like the weird end of the world fantasy and really blows them up to like
Yeah.
ridiculous proportions. And it's entertaining.
That's entertaining. Yeah.
It doesn't have the same heart at all.
Doesn't have a heart.
Yeah, but anyway. Oh yeah, and it's also worth mentioning that Romero really liked to dress up his zombies, which is kind of fun. He had like clown zombies and nun zombies.
I was gonna say that's one of the things that really pops up in Day of the Dead.
Oh,
that we're about to get into.
Yeah. So
Day of the Dead zombies, honestly, outside of Return to the Living Dead, are some of my favorite design zombies that I've seen.
Well, Dr. Tongue is my fucking favorite zombie, period. But oh man, there's so much to say about Day of the Dead. It's just such a like fever dream of a wonderful zombie movie. Because
I feel like it is highly, highly underappreciated, because I know everyone loves Dawn of the Dead, everyone loves Night of the Living Dead. A lot of people don't really know about Day of the Dead. I fucking love Day of the Dead.
Well, let's just give it some context. Of its time, it was kind of hated because I think it aged like a fine wine. I think people today just didn't appreciate its quirkiness.
Yes.
Its uniqueness.
They didn't know what they had at the time, and what they had was fucking gold.
What we're talking about is, oh god, how do I even start? The acting is so fucking over and under
it's
the
so
top
bad,
and
it's good.
Yeah, the soundtrack is phenomenal.
So good, it's great.
It's so good the Gorillaz have sampled it.
Yes.
Like multiple times. Apparently I realized they also sampled a track from Dawn of the Dead. And Night of the Living Dead. I'll point it out. Well, I guess I'll just mention it. So
yeah, mention the songs.
Okay, so for the Demon Days intro, they sampled a song from the part of Dawn of the Dead when the two riot guys are moving the trucks around, and that's just for the intro of it.
Yeah.
I'll play like a 5-second clip.
Yeah.
Or enough of it so we won't get copyrighted.
So we get an understanding.
So we get it. But yeah, so I'll just play a little bit of that. That also, Hip Albatross has some, I think there are like some of the moaning from Bub, which we'll talk about him. He's in Day of the Dead.
Yeah.
He's one of the zombies from Day of the Dead. And then it also has some of the like news reportings from Night of the Living Dead.
Every dead body that is not exterminated becomes one of them. It gets up and kills. The people it kills get up and kill.
And then M1A1 just straight up takes
the entire opening scene
of Day of the Dead, and man, the fucking opening scene of Day of the Dead,
amazing.
So,
if you can't see, I'm punching myself in the thighs with excitement talking about this movie.
Oh my god. Okay, so I don't know how do we even. So Day of the Dead, basic.
Because I know we're gonna want to talk about the entire movie scene for scene because every single frame is a fucking painting, but we can't do that.
We can't do that. This is what I'm gonna do. We're just gonna give you a quick summary of it, and then we're just gonna go part by part
and talk about the stuff we love.
Exactly. So intro, we see the main characters. I guess they're on a helicopter looking for survivors in the city. As they're yelling, they awaken a bunch of zombies. They realize
goes to this awesome scene.
Not yet. Not yet. I'm just gonna get through a summary real quick. I'm just gonna get through a summary.
But bite my tongue.
Okay. So anyway, yeah. Intro. They're trying to see if there's any people left in the city. It's clear that the city's overrun. They come back to the army base that they're staying in. It like gives you an establishing shot, so it's like, oh, okay, these people are like not very affected by the zombie apocalypse because they're in this nice base, and this base is a weird underground place that's only entrance is an elevator, a giant industrial elevator.
Like it's like a truck elevator.
Yeah, basically, and I guess you get from this like scene where the scientists are just like talking about wrangling zombies in a cave, where it turns out that like what's going on in this like base is that the army men have been tasked with protecting these scientists who are trying to do research on zombies to find some sort of a cure or some way to deal with them. Through the events of the movie, you find out that, well, the head scientist has kind of gone insane, and he's just, like, kind of tearing apart, like, the zombie corpses and, like, kind of demanding for more. See some of the fucking best zombie effects.
Oh.
And there's a lot of tension. The head military guy is very angry because his men are dying trying to get these zombies for testing that's not doing anything. And he's, like, basically decided to take over the entire base, saying that he's in charge now. There's just a lot of tension. Accidents happen. The main character is this lady who's also a scientist, but she's kind of like she's more of like a assistant, I guess, because it doesn't really like say how much of a scientist she is. Like,
yeah, they never really give her credentials
or anything. She's just kind of she just kind of helps the story get along.
Yeah.
But her and like the only helicopter pilots in the base are kind of friends. And then at some point, there's a full-on revolt. The zombies get into the base because of this, and the base is overrun. The main character and her friends take off in the helicopter. The end. Well, now we can get into it. That's just the basic summary. We're gonna take it from the top again and talk about what we love. Go on, Cody. I see you prepping.
Can I go?
Yeah, you can go.
Can I go?
You can go.
Okay, opening fucking scene. Absolutely amazing. Helicopter comes down, it lands. Scientist and her, I believe, boyfriend.
That's what they say on
That's
the
what they
wiki.
say. He is very flamboyant,
Yeah.
which I don't think he's acting. But
That's just how he talks.
that's just how he talks. Yeah, it's weird. But they get out of the helicopter, they walk into this town, and the first thing that happens is boyfriend starts yelling out, "Hello, is there anyone there? Hello?" And as they do that, the music cuts in. And as the music cuts in, you start getting these, like, panning shots of various different parts of this decimated city.
And,
as the zombies slowly start, like, coming to attention that there are people there.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. There's an alligator.
Real alligator.
Real alligator.
Being followed by its actual handlers.
But dressed as zombies.
As we said, that entire intro of that soldier yelling, "Hello, is there anyone there?"
Hello?
gets sampled almost by the Gorillaz in their song M1A1.
With almost no editing.
Oh, no editing. They just like clean up some of the background noises of like paper fluttering around. And you also like you see there's like a newspaper that like kind of hints that like the world's ended and
Yeah, everything's over.
everything's over. And I think I saw in the like behind the scenes like documentary they showed like a picture of the newspaper and there's like a sub headline saying like Vice President could not be found anywhere, and that's just it.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting. It kind of like helps build the world a bit.
Yeah.
And then the title card comes on, but it's introduced by, as we mentioned, a zombie that's like named by the fans Dr. Tongue, which is this awesome puppet made by Tom Savini that's like no jaw.
And its tongue, like, sort of, it
It's
turns
just
around,
flapping.
looks at the camera, there's a silhouette, it's kind of a silhouette until the sun sort of comes around a little bit and you can see its face and the tongue just flops down.
Yeah.
And underneath it just says, Day of the Dead.
It's a beautiful shot.
Fucking amazing shot.
Yeah. I fucking just love that shot. No, but it's just really...
It just sticks with you.
There's just so much shit in that movie that it's just...
Ugh.
It's so insane.
Any portion of the movie, you can freeze frame it and look at it and you're just like, I would want that on my wall.
Yeah, but basically the entire... Like I said, the entire movie's in this base, which I later found out was an actual army base that's just like an underground cavern with an office area, which the entire time I thought was fake.
Fake. It looks very fake.
It looks very fake, but apparently it's real. Like everything that's like they used in the film was already there, and it's just... I couldn't believe that it was real.
I don't know how the hell they got their hands on that fucking facility.
I know, right? But basically...
There's a part, also, we have to talk about this, where she's having like a fever dream.
Oh,
and
okay,
she goes to check a calendar, she leans up against a wall, and I guess the wall is made out of paper and a bunch of arms reach through around her.
And she does like
She does the classic like Romeo and Juliet fainting pose.
Oh my god, it's hilarious, and just freeze
And it's
frame.
so fucking goofy, but it's awesome.
No, I was looking at the posters for that movie, and the Japanese poster is just a shot of that.
Dude, the Japanese have the best posters.
Yeah, it's
our
just
posters
that.
can go fuck themselves. Like, have you seen their Army of Darkness poster?
No.
It's fucking awesome.
All right, we'll put a link. But anyway, yeah, so it's hard to explain, but this movie's just so...
This is the most fun of the Romero movies that I've seen.
I think so, yeah, because the acting is just so over the top.
And I love Steel.
Yeah, when I said that, like, there's an army officer that just takes over the place, or that, like, revolts, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to... It's just... He's just this one guy.
His character is a psychopath.
But, like, he's just so over the top, and everyone is so subdued. He's just like... Oh my god, my favorite line, I'm in charge of this monkey farm now, and I want to know what you're doing with my time.
I'm in charge of this monkey farm now, and I want to do what you're doing with my time.
He's just yelling, and he's so freaking... Just please try to watch this movie. It's so hard to try to, like...
we don't want to go through and explain all of this, because this is genuinely our favorite fucking movie.
Yeah. But I just want to mention again, Tom Savini's special effects in this movie.
Oh my god.
You get to see a bunch of the army people get torn apart
and fucking disemboweled.
It's amazing. There's like scenes where they do this twice, where it's like there's a zombie that has his chest open that when he's being like experimented on by the scientist
that gets like woken up, rolls over, and its guts spill out on the floor, but it's still a person like reaching out trying to grab people.
And then there's also a zombie that, like, I guess they the story is the scientist removed everything but the brain, so it's just a chest with a brain stem.
Yeah,
and a brain
like,
at the end
moving around.
Yeah, it's freaking amazing. Like, and then
it also has some of my favorite lines of any zombie movie ever. Like the one that'll always fucking stick with me is "I hope you choke."
Oh yeah, choke on it.
Choke on it. Yeah.
Choke on it.
Choke on it. As he's getting disemboweled and the zombies are eating his guts, and he just tells him to choke on it, and it goes out in fucking style.
Yeah, watch that movie, then watch the behind the scenes. There's so many fun little facts that we don't want to get into just because we don't want to do a play-by-play.
Exactly. We don't want to play-by-play, and we don't really have the time because it didn't have the same impact as the rest of the movies. I feel like that's why we're not talking about it as much, is because it didn't affect as much as...
Of the culture as
the rest of his films.
Yeah.
It affected me.
Yeah. It's just his bookend. It's his, like, final... That's, like, the actual Dead trilogy. Everything past that is just kind of... We're going to do a quick bullet point on why we don't like those. I want to do that.
Oh, man. But it just
hurts
because I love the rest of the movies.
I know, but we're also going to recommend some other awesome zombie stuff that's out there after that.
Yeah.
But anyway...
we'll run through our, like, personal recommendations.
Exactly. But Day of the Dead, another really cool part that, for the life of me, doesn't really have any impact on the story is that... the main scientist, who's only ever called Dr. Frankenstein, as far as I can tell, and we watched that movie like 3 times.
Yeah.
He's learned that he can train a zombie.
Through showing them things that they loved in their previous life, that he's allowed to sort of control their appetite.
Sort of. He just kind of like...
He can basically give them a glimpse back at their humanity.
Yeah, he like Fido's it.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyways...
Which also... fucking stellar movie.
Yeah, not bad. But
not bad.
I mean, it's a fun movie.
It's Old Yeller with a zombie.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's awesome.
Sorry.
No, but his name's Bub, and I loved him. He was portrayed great. He was fun. He learns to use a gun. But oh my god, oh man, it's just ridiculous, and it doesn't matter. Like, his last shot in the film is he's shooting an army guy.
And then salutes him.
Yeah, and that's it. And it's
awesome.
And it's, like, sarcastic, too, because, I don't know. It's just great. Please watch this movie. Yeah. And before we move on, I really just have to give a tribute to Steele, the greatest character in film history.
The most fucking Chad alpha male that has ever existed.
Fucking Steele. Please watch Day of the Dead.
And also Day of the Dead has some of the most, like, goofy, quirky shit, because one of the things I'll never understand is the circus music that shows up, like, just randomly. Like, there's a part where they literally, it's kind of sad, they're locking these zombies away, like, tied up in chains by themselves, and then it plays circus music and the lights turn off. It makes no goddamn sense.
Yeah, and here's some fun behind-the-scene facts as to why none of this makes any sense. So, I guess this is also a good kind of lead-in into the other half of the Dead trilogy. Yeah, the Dead trilogy. But, basically...
Sorry, I was just emphasizing trilogy.
Trilogy.
Like, there's the Dead trilogy, and then there's the rest of the Romero movies.
There's the Dead trilogy, then there's the rest of the Romero movies trilogy.
Trilogy? Or
It is, because there's Land of the Dead, Diary of the Dead, and Survival of the Dead. Trilogy. And we're not counting the remake of Dawn of the Dead under that.
Well, yeah.
But, anyway, so basically, apparently Romero wanted to make Day of the Dead into, like, a way bigger film than it actually was. It was supposed to be what Land of the Dead was, and we'll explain that a bit more.
And we'll explain how goddamn happy we are that didn't work out.
Yeah, but, the way, he got, like, kind of a 3-picture deal with the film studio he was making this with, and he didn't want to make the next Dead film first because he knew that's what they wanted.
Yeah.
He wanted to make his films first, so his other, like, I guess, passion projects first, so he could actually get them made. So what we get out of that is Night Riders, which is very forgettable, I'd say. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's very much just a footnote.
It's, yeah.
Then there's, I think, Creepshow was the other one of that one, which is a little bit more cult movie. I think Creepshow has a little bit more.
Fun.
Creepshow's fun. And then we get Day of the Dead. But it's worth mentioning that because after those two movies didn't do that well in the box office, he didn't have the same budget that he would have had if he had made Day of the Dead first. And he wanted Day of the Dead to be this huge, like, instead of just being a military base, it was supposed to be a city protected by military. It was supposed to be this huge, like, Miami Vice-X, like, I think he mentioned he wanted, like, boat chase scenes in it and, like, just all this insane stuff, which is why the soundtrack is what it is. It's supposed to be, like, this, like, fun, goofy, like, Miami Vice type story.
Yeah.
And it's insane that he wanted all that. And
Which, I mean, I would love to see that.
yeah.
I would. But I would love to see that with it not being Land of the Dead.
But, yeah, and it's also interesting, worth noting that, so all the series in the first Dead trilogy they're not, like, connected, other than that they're zombie movies, like, thematically, and none of the characters overlap. It's all different people every time, and that's really, like, unique, but it's also a result of copyright issues. Romero probably would have made them into, like, sequels that had, like, recurring characters or worlds within worlds kind of thing.
Yeah.
But he just couldn't because of copyright issues, which is pretty funny. I had no idea that's why they're so different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you always watch and you're like, I feel like these could be connected. And then you realize it's because Hollywood.
Hollywood, yeah. But I think that's good for Day of the Dead. We love that movie.
Love.
If you honestly want us to do, like, a play-by-play of that movie, let us know, because I think we'd be more than happy to.
Oh, dude.
Or, like,
I will go into every single goddamn frame of that movie and just...
or at the very least, like, record a commentary track of that movie, something, because that movie is just wonderful. And I've
one
seen
of my definite personal favorites.
Yeah, and enough time has passed that I'm way down to rewatch that again.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I remember the first time we watched it, I watched it 3 times in a row.
Jesus.
The next day.
Yeah. It was an experience. We went into it blind too. I'd never seen it. I just knew of it, and Cody had never seen it either. So every twist and turn was brand new.
Brand new.
But yeah. So I guess quick, like, bullet point on the Dawn of the Dead remake, I guess.
Yeah, and also the comparison of it to it and the original, and, like, because the Dawn of the Dead remake is very much new Hollywood zombie.
Yeah.
But just placed in the same situation of the original.
Yeah, I remember George Romero complained a lot that every zombie in that movie was running and was in, like, running shoes and jeans.
Yeah.
Whereas he liked to put, like, I think, I remember when I was looking at the behind the scenes of Dawn of the Dead, he mentioned that, one, it was, like, freezing during that time because it was, like, winter in whatever part of the world they were, like Pennsylvania or something.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was Pittsburgh still. And then there was, like, a fat guy in a swimsuit that's, like, famously one of, like, the zombies that just people remember so well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just imagine that. But, like, yeah, in the Dawn of the Dead remake, there's not much of that. All the zombies are a lot more similar. And it's been a while since I've seen it, but I remember specifically there was, like, a scene, because it's a lot more like the characters are a lot less likable besides, like, your main protagonists in that one, because it's, like, a nurse who I remember, like, the opening scene's pretty good. Like, the opening credit scene is pretty iconic, which is why every goddamn fucking horror
movie does it now.
Yeah, if you don't know, I think it's Johnny Cash's When the Man Comes Around over, like, real riot footage. And, like, it's like a montage of riot footage and news recordings and stuff like that. And you could probably... I'm trying to think of movies that have done that off the top of my head, and I can't, besides World War Z.
Well, it's because it's all the same goddamn thing, so it's so unmemorable that every time somebody fucking does it, nobody cares.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stick with you because every single movie has done it.
Yeah, but it was pretty okay the first time around. It's pretty memorable.
Yeah, the first time you see it, it's like that starkly sticks with you, and you sit there, you're like, that's a pretty smart thing to do because they don't have to film anything.
Yeah,
you can just take someone else's footage, put it over something else, and it's like for use.
I mean, for the most part, I just remember that it was a nurse. She ends up at a mall after, like, the neighbor girl breaks in and does the classic, like, quiet girl yells thing.
Well, I was gonna say, it's the classic husband gets up and goes, "Are you okay, little girl?" And, and he gets, like, bit on the throat and falls down.
Yeah, basically, and then she realizes shit's going down somehow. Ends up at the mall, and then through some fucking... I don't know, I don't remember much of that movie except, like, there's a topless treadmill scene at some point. I just remember thinking, why is that there?
Because goofy zombies, Enrique. There were goofy zombies in the other one.
No, it was just one of the survivors was topless on a treadmill.
What?
Yeah, I remember.
Oh my god, I can't remember. I barely remember any of this movie because I watched it, it just kind of brushed by me.
Yeah, it has the dad from Modern Family being an asshole. There's this part where they have a friend, they see a guy in a gun store who's, like, trapped in a gun store, so they try to send him food using a dog because zombies don't like dogs or don't want to eat dogs, and then the entire plan gets ruined because the girl gets scared that her dog's going to get killed, a little girl that's with them, and then that, like, makes everything go wrong. And there's some point where they decide to, like, make battle buses to try to drive out of the mall to try to get to the local marina. Their plan is to try to, like, grab a boat to an island or some shit. Their plan fails because they're all stupid and they think that having a chainsaw window is a good idea for killing zombies. Even though I saw this when I was, like, 12 and I still thought to myself, why would they make the window at, like, waist height? Because, like, they first of all, the window is, like, just a slit where they could stick a chainsaw through, and it's at chest height, so they're basically just cutting zombies at the torso, and then the zombies are still hanging out on the bus. And then they didn't fasten the chainsaws on in any way, so there's a point where there's, like, a little bit of rocking back and forth, and the old guy holding the chainsaw falls backwards, cuts one of the other survivors with the chainsaw, and things just keep going wrong. Fucking the few of them that do make it out onto a boat, because Modern Family dad has a boat or whatever, make it out onto the boat, and then the movie ends where it's, like, positive because they're out on a boat near an island. The credits roll. You see, like, the after credit scene where they pass a boat with a head in a cooler. They make it to an island and it's overrun with zombies, and they get charged by zombies, and then Down with the Sickness starts playing.
Get up, come on, get down with the sickness. Get up, come on, get down with the sickness. Get up.
I'll try to find a copyright safe version to put in right now. It's forgettable. It wasn't terrible, and I definitely liked it when I was 12. But I mean, that's about it. I don't really want to say much more about it. Zack Snyder.
Fuck him.
Romero also doesn't have much to say about it, or at least he didn't when
nobody has much to say about it.
Yeah, it helped.
It was another zombie movie.
Again, besides that intro, not much came of it as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Okay, and now we're going to do, again, quick bullet points on the other Romero movies. Alright, Cody, what do you got to say about Land of the Dead? Land of the Dead is about a world. Is about the zombie world where they have cordoned off, like, a city, and then the rich people made a tower where rich people live.
But they're not going to let in the Mexican.
Yeah, whose name is Cholo, which is the equivalent of naming someone rapper or gangster.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not a name, that's a noun. But anyway, there's even, I wanted to look up this scene, but I couldn't fucking bring myself to watch any of that movie anymore. There's a part where Cholo is looking at like a security film of a zombie mowing a lawn, because the other thing about this movie is the zombies are becoming intelligent and they're doing things. And then there's one zombie who's like rising up and leading the other zombies to take over the rich person tower,
where they all they buy is necklaces and jewelry and rich people things.
I don't get.
They have a slave.
Yeah, they basically have a black butler who's essentially the Mazur type of stereotype.
It's very, very... It's a lot of stereotypes all sort of shoved together with zombie film kind of sort of plastered around it.
There's just a lot of stuff.
There's one of my least favorite zombie attacks I've ever fucking seen in my entire life. It's the zombie priest.
Yes.
Who, it looks like the zombie doesn't have a head, but guess what? Its head has been kind of cut off, but the head's sort of hanging behind it, so when it runs up, it flicks the head forward, and you can see this horrific CGI of the top of this zombie head flying forward and latching onto somebody's arm and chewing away at them, and then the mentally... I don't know. Is he mentally challenged? The character's supposed to be mentally challenged?
I can't imagine that he's not, but it's like...
It feels like it's just...
Let's just call him Forrest Gump. Is that too much?
I don't know.
Basically, it's fucking hard to explain. So the entire plot of the movie...
From Mice and Men. The character's like Lenny from Mice and Men, and he's...
The plot of
just sort of bumbly.
Yeah, the plot of the movie is that he has like a burn mark. He's like burn scars are on his face or something. The movie is like there's rich people that have a tower. It's called Fiddler's Green. It's the stupidest fucking name. There was an ad for a video game of it in the beginning of the movie. It looked fucking ridiculous. Anyway, it looked fucking stupid. But I just hate this movie. It's about the people who run around getting supplies and get paid by the rich people to supply them. But it's like, why is no one farming? Why are no one making settlements?
Because they can make other people go and do it, Enrique.
I guess. But anyway.
They're still a working class.
And I guess oh wait, here's a ripple from Dawn of the Dead remake. The buses, the stupid superpowered buses.
Yes, he takes the bus idea.
Yeah.
And then Cholo...
Well, okay, I'm gonna be honest real quick. I didn't get the dates down for either of those movies. Maybe it's the other way around. But
I don't know.
Who cares? That's enough bullet points. Land of the Dead was not very good as far as I'm concerned. Feel free to leave comments about your opinions against or for that. Here's one that I have to imagine is universally hated at this point. Diary of the Dead.
Alright, okay, basically, this is as far as we're gonna go with this. Found footage zombie film.
No, this is as far as okay, here's my shameful admission. When I was younger, I thought this was a good movie. I was like, it was Halloween, me, Cody, and another friend were like, hey, let's all rent movies at our local, nice, obscure video store. My pick was Diary of the Dead because I thought, hey, I haven't seen this in years. I wonder how it holds up. We watched 15 minutes of it, then shut it off.
The fuck off.
That's our recap of Diary of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead is great.
I'm gonna put in a little sound clip of the intro and let you decide how much you like, if you'd be willing to continue to watch this movie.
It's interesting how quickly we find out what we're capable of becoming. Up until that night, we had lived predictable lives. Now, we would never be able to predict what might happen next. God had changed the rules on us, and surprisingly, we were playing along.
What did you think of that?
I decided to put it together with music just so it'll have more impact.
Maybe then you'll wake up.
No. Oh God, wake up. Ooh, it's fucking awful.
Oh god, the part where she's filming with her Motorola flip phone, and then it's obviously not a flip phone when it cuts to that footage. Also, how do you get footage from a flip phone? That girl dies at some point. Okay, anyway, we're moving on. That movie's terrible. Please don't put yourself through that. It's not even so bad, it's
Don't do it.
funny.
If you're thinking about watching Diary of the Dead, watch Day of the Dead twice.
Yes! Anyway, the last one of this, which I'll say is better than at least Diary or Land of the Dead,
Which is not hard.
which is not hard, not a hard bar to cross, and you did it, George. God bless you. It's it's
I think
Survival of the Dead.
Yeah, these movies wouldn't hit me as hard if his other movies weren't so fantastic.
Anyway, so Survival of the Dead basic plot. It is an actual sequel to Diary of the Dead, because there's a part in Diary of the Dead where our main cast has their van stolen by a bunch of army guys that they think are going to help them because they're the army. But oh no, the world's falling apart and technology is alienating us, and they stole their van or RV. Anyway, this picks off where that leaves off. These army guys end up on a ferry that takes them to an island. Two families have been warring on this island for centuries. One of the families, not the zombie things happened, thinks that zombies can be healed or at least taught to eat something else.
Wait. Centuries?
Yeah.
The families. So is it like zombie related that
No.
they've been fighting, or they've just been?
This is just a family feud. Think like the Montagues and the Capulets or something.
The fuck?
Yeah. It's a little island that's like a farming island or whatever.
Why hasn't like the U.S. done anything about this shit?
It's not like they're warring. They just don't like each other.
Oh, I thought you meant they were like combating each other. I haven't been able to sit down and watch this movie.
Okay, they're just fighting. They don't like I said, think Capulets and the Montagues from like...
They were killing each other.
Think the modern descendants of those people.
Oh.
Anyway, so they don't like each other. Now that the zombie outbreaks happened, one of the families thinks that you should kill the zombies. The other one thinks, no, we could find a way to like cure them. And they kind of go the route of Bub from Day of the Dead, but not as like intelligent.
Or as interesting.
No, their thing is that they got a zombie to eat like a horse, so they think that they can be trained to not eat humans. Or they saw a zombie eat a horse, and then they noticed the zombies can like do things they did when they were living, so they think they can be taught otherwise. Basically, the conflict bubbles up that everyone ends up dead. The two fathers from the fighting families at the end of the movie are zombies who are doing a duel as zombies with guns that don't have any bullets because they do what they did when they were living. The end. It was not as bad as Diary of the Dead. Consider that.
Weren't.
Consider that. It was more enjoyable than Diary of the Dead.
So is the genital mutilation scene in Serpent in the Rainbow.
You want to talk about that real quick? Because we never got anything out of it.
That's a good point. I was crying. Alright. So I recently watched, again, this is the zombie film I recommend, Serpent in the Rainbow. It's based off of the book that we actually talked about in episode 1, about the Haitian zombies, and it's about the doctor going down to Haiti to get the zombie powder. I don't want to give too much away. Basically, it's a film. He gets in way over his head. He starts having visions. The visions sort of start molding into his real life, and you can't really tell where one starts and where one ends. It's a really, really cool idea. Very similar to if you've seen a Jacob's Ladder, where it's sort of this mix of hallucinations and real life, and they're all mixing together, and it's absolutely stellar. Has a really, really, well, in my personal opinion, very interesting portrayal of voodoo. Voodoo is used a lot. They kind of sort of talk about the, right and left hand path of it. So you have these, it's not a vilification of voodoo.
Yeah.
Because there's very positive voodoo in the movie and there's very negative voodoo in the movie, and they're sort of in the middle, and they talk about the Bacors and which sort of side they can decide to be on. And all around, stellar film.
You mentioned that they also did the whole biting of the ash thing?
They did the biting of the ash. They actually go to a few ceremonies where they go around and check out the ceremonies and see what's going on. They have a character who's running around dressed as Baron Samedi, who actually, he's one of the main villains. But he isn't Baron Samedi, but during one of the things he's dressed as him and is sort of like running around, like lighting a torch, smoking a cigar, and it's just cool that they decided to put all these things in the film, because I obviously think they needed to, because they need to portray that side of zombies. A zombie never tries to eat anybody. There's never anything like that. It's just all around. It's more about more about voodoo hexes and curses than zombieism.
Yeah. Which is
and
interesting.
It's very, very good.
And there's an off-screen genital mutilation.
Two. Yeah. One of them's on screen.
Really?
And it happens to a dude, and he gets cast into hell, and it's fucking awesome.
Yikes. But yeah.
It's really cool.
That's our first
Every single one of the practical effects in this film is fantastic. Very, very good. It's just great.
Do you want to just get into recommendations at this point? Because I think we've said all we really want to say. All
we kind of have to say about Romero. Yeah, definitely. We should talk about some stuff that we enjoy, why we enjoy it, and why we think it sort of fits into what people need to sort of check out.
Okay, I'm going to toss this in there. At the very least, the first couple, I don't know, what'd you say, like 50 chapters of the Walking Dead comic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of the comic, yes.
Of the comic. Because especially the first, like, two chapters have the great art.
The first 2 volumes, read them because Tony Moore illustrated them, and oh my fucking god, if you haven't seen Tony Moore's illustration, read his run of Deadpool. Check out fucking, oh my god, what's it called? Give me a second.
That's cool.
Fear Agents.
Oh,
read Fear Agents.
Yes.
Read Fear Agents. Read his run of Deadpool. That's the one where it's with the dead presidents. Read at least the first 2 chapters of The Walking Dead, because this dude needs attention, because he is a fucking genius.
Yeah, his artwork it's good on its own. It's great. But yeah, for the sake of this topic, we're recommending the first 2 chapters of The Walking Dead for that art. And I'd say up to at least I'd say to the end of the prison arc of the comic.
Yeah, to the end of the prison arc of the comic is very solid. It's very good characters. Everything works out really well. And
there's just enough extremism. Like, past that, things start getting too many people die. Not too many people die, but too many people die as a plot twist or like
as
an
a plot
exclamation
device.
point. Yeah, there you go. And it like starts to get to me, especially like by 100s when I dropped it. Let me know if you disagree with that. But I'd say at least until the prison arc is good for any like dedicated fan of good zombie
stuff.
Yeah.
If you're going in all probability, if you're listening to this, you probably watched The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Season 1.
Solid.
Very, very solid. I love the director. I love the guy that worked on it. Season 2 and on, you're going to notice it starts dipping off because they fucked over the director on that.
I mean, also just I don't know, like I said, season 2 and on is, I don't know, I just don't really like what they did with the characters in general. Like, the writing wasn't there, and...
Well, the writing wasn't there because they had a different person on it.
Oh, that's true. Duh.
They got out the dude who did The Mist, and the guy who got all of those decent actors in there in the first place because they wanted to work with him. FX realized that the show was making a lot of money, so they cut down his budget. And through doing that, they cut down his budget and then made him have to do more episodes. He said, I'm not going to do this. He left. Everybody else was stuck on there due to contract error, except for Dale, who they killed off.
Yeah.
Probably because the fact that the director left, because Dale's been in every single one of his other movies. So pretty much everything you can see that went wrong with The Walking Dead is FX's fault.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there. It makes me really mad. It really gets to me. I love the director. I apologize for ranting.
I'd say that Robert Kirkman's at fault for faulty writing. They based it off of his comic. His comic isn't that great. Anyway,
I just want to blame FX because theirs wasn't even story based. It was just them being greedy.
Also, as like a citation and a recommendation, Your Movie Sucks review of The Walking Dead seasons 1 and 2 is really good. And if you really want to get into depth of what we mentioned,
of what I've been ranting about,
he does a great job. And if you think, I mean, also just check out his channel. He's great.
He's fantastic.
He's wonderful.
I was going to say, he's a genius.
Yeah. I'd also like to recommend Dead Set. It's a miniseries from IFC, I believe. Or I saw it on IFC at the very least. But it's also on Netflix now, so I highly recommend it. But it's a miniseries about zombie apocalypse. It centers around Big Brother TV show that it's like one of the nights of elimination when the zombie apocalypse starts, and it's like they're kind of trying to survive the zombie apocalypse inside one of these reality TV houses, and it's really interesting, really good, and the ending's interesting. It kind of, I'd say, it reminds me a lot of that has some ripples of Dawn of the Dead, especially at the end. But I think it did what Diary of the Dead did terribly with its commentary on like media.
Yeah.
A little bit better. And it's also not like, it's not ham-fisted. It's fun if you like good zombie effects, good gore effects, and just like it's just a good one. I highly recommend Dead Set, and it should be on Netflix as of today.
A comic that I highly recommend is I Am a Hero.
Manga.
It's a manga comic. I Am a Hero is one of my favorite zombie manga that has ever existed.
I'd say it's like better. It's one of the best. It's up there on the list of one of the best zombie things there. But
it's one of the most human zombie things I've ever read.
It's definitely very well written. It is the story of a manga artist, who in Japan, as a stranger, kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like a plague-like version of the zombie apocalypse starts to take off, and sure.
Well, okay. Basically, what's going on is it's as much for this character a struggle with his, like, insanity.
Yeah.
Because even leading up to this, he
has emotional
disorders and like mental instability.
Yeah.
Because even before any of this starts, he's kind of hallucinating. He can never really, throughout the entire film, grasp what's going on.
Yeah.
It never really strikes him. He's going through all of these situations. He owns a gun, which is very rare in Japan, which is interesting, and he doesn't use it.
And it has actual realistic gun physics.
It
and
does.
Gun logic, gun
physics. It's just very solid. His characters are fantastic. The zombies are interesting, almost endearing at points.
Yeah.
And his plot twists in anything else would feel stupid.
I'd also like to preface this with I love it and I recommend the entire series, but towards the end it takes a lot of twists and turns that might turn some people off. I think it's good throughout.
I think it's fucking fantastic.
And its twist on zombies is that the zombies are really strong.
Oh, okay.
The zombies are strong, and that they will sometimes speak things that they used to say in their living life.
But not consciously.
Not consciously.
It's a sort of repetition. They kind of have tics.
Yeah.
Where one of them was like a door-to-door guy, and he's like newspaper, that kind of deal.
Yeah.
And
it's good.
It's good.
It's really
great.
good.
I don't want to describe any more of it because if I give that up, it'll just give it all away. But the violence, amazingly well done. His art is fantastic.
And for some people, they don't like when a series is ongoing. It's completed, so
it finished.
So
we actually, Enrique and I, finished it at the same time, and when we did, we both had a big discussion about it.
And it was great.
And it was so good.
And if you know what, if there are enough fans out there, or if people care enough, we could do a full-on discussion on I Am a Hero. I wouldn't mind.
A spoiler discussion.
A spoiler discussion.
Yeah.
But this is just our recommendation of I Am a Hero, a zombie manga. It's really good.
The zombie manga. It's amazing. It's by the same artist of Boys on the Slope.
Yeah.
Which is also very good if you're not sexually squeamish.
But
because that's another thing that is talked about a lot in I Am a Hero is sexuality.
Yeah.
Is like how sexuality affects people, but not in the sense of like, I just want to fuck all the time. It's in the sense that it can be something that really fucks with people's heads.
Yeah. Also, for recommendations, some people, like when you get really into the zombie nerds, some people will argue about zombies versus infections.
Yeah.
And just in that ballpark, I'm going to toss in 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later. Both very solid and fun movies.
And
Wreck, yes!
I highly recommend
the original
Wreck.
Mexican, or I guess Spain version of Wreck.
Well, because the other one's called Quarantine, right?
Yeah, the American remake is Quarantine, not as good.
Well, watch Quarantine after you've watched Wreck, so that you can sit there and look at them both and figure out what you like about one or the other. I personally highly recommend Wreck because it's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And it's crazy good.
I'll admit that before I got really into movies, I couldn't really tell the difference as much. But later on, when we rewatched it, I'm like, that was a good fucking movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, one of my favorite monsters
Yes.
ever. And one of my favorite found footage films.
Oh, yeah. Good point. Yeah, it's a good
It's hard to remember that it's found footage, but then I have to also remember that that's a very important plot point.
Yeah.
It's important that it is a found footage film. It bases itself around that a lot.
I don't know why, but that reminded me of something else that it's kind of in the ballpark. It's a song recommendation. That's if you watched, I think, Documentary of the Dead, you'll know this song, but it's called "The Living Dead Are Keeping Me Up at Night" by No More Kings.
The living dead are keeping me up at night. They're hanging around outside. They're probably mad they've died.
It's really fun. I'll play it for you when we're done recording.
Yeah.
That's another recommendation just for shits and giggles.
Do you want to jump into games?
Not yet, because we still need at least one more movie recommendation.
Oh!
Yes.
Ooh.
Now, I'd like to preface this recommendation by saying I've been into zombie media my entire life, and when I saw this movie, I said to Cody, because we watched it together, I said, that I'm for certain sure this is my favorite zombie anything.
Anything ever.
Any zombie
both
piece of
completely agreed on this.
Yeah, this is the best piece of zombie media that's been created. It is a foreign film. It's on Netflix.
One of the things I do have to throw out there, though, is I'm a huge Korean movie nerd.
Yeah. It's
Gigantic
on Netflix.
Korean movie nerd, so take this with a grain of salt.
It's on Netflix. For the love of God, just watch it. If nothing else...
If you have the ability, if you have any way to watch this movie...
Watch it.
Oh my God, watch this movie.
This movie is Train to Busan. That is Busan. It is... phenomenal.
We're not going to describe it.
We could do an entire episode on it.
On what makes it great, what they did right, which is everything.
If honestly, I'm gonna just put this out there. If we end up actually getting an audience and people want to listen to commentary tracks by us, I'd love to do one on Train to Busan.
Yes.
Or at least something on Train to Busan, because I love this film.
I hold this film so deeply.
Yeah.
This is held with me like raid level.
We almost cried.
Yes.
There's
never
not
been a zombie film that has made me feel this much emotion for characters.
Yeah, we literally almost cried. That movie was so good.
We were sitting like on the couch watching this movie, just like we're men. I can't cry in front of my friend, but we were so goddamn close.
The characters are lovable. The story is believable.
Amazing.
The zombies are done well. It's just everything is so good about it. I can't emphasize it, and
we can't emphasize enough.
Yeah,
how good this movie is.
Train to Busan.
Watch it,
please. It is
Watch
good,
it.
And it's on Netflix. So it's on
Netflix. You can find it just about anywhere because it is a fucking ride.
Yeah.
Oh,
another shits and giggles recommendation. Dead Snow.
Oh, Dead Snow. Yeah.
That's not even really a zombie movie, but it is and it isn't. It's just a couple friends go out
It's a Nazi zombie movie.
It's a Nazi zombie movie.
It's awesome. It's fucking great.
If we're doing that one, I'm gonna just toss in Frankenstein's Army.
I was about to ask if Frankenstein's Army
just
counted.
Do it, just
because I was gonna say Frankenstein's Army. Watch it, unless you're like a little Nazi squeamish. But Frankenstein's Army is fucking awesome. It's one of the more recent movies that has just taken a really, really good use of practical effects to make a good campy horror film. It has awesome gore, freaky monsters, scary monsters. There's a monster, it's a dude that's literally a drill with legs that runs around just like rampaging people.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of Russians being killed by Nazi zombie monsters. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Because I was about to ask.
I know, man. We were talking about what we were gonna recommend, and I couldn't resist. I fucking love
Frankenstein's Army.
Frankenstein's Army.
Good. I'm gonna go watch that tonight.
I mean, unless you think of something else, but yeah, we can talk about video games.
You want to talk about video games?
Go for it, dude.
Okay. My personal video game recommendation is Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4, which in all probability just about everybody's played it. But I actually, sadly enough, started playing it fairly recently in the last like 2 or 3 years. I've played it about 7 times.
Yeah.
All the way through.
And it's on a bunch of different platforms.
I own it on 3 different platforms.
Yeah, it's a good game.
It's awesome. If you have the chance and the ability, definitely play it on GameCube, because that's where you get those really sweet add-ons for like your post-game plus playthroughs.
And also the GameCube controller is just one of the best controllers.
Oh, dude, every time I play on any other controller, I have to set it to GameCube controls. I still have to, like, aim, walk, and shoot with the left stick.
Yeah.
Right stick, left stick.
Definitely a great game. My recommendation for my favorite zombie game is Dead Rising 1. My favorite zombie game of all time. I absolutely love Dead Rising. It's just fun. It's basically Dawn of the Dead, the game, but instead you're Frank West, this goofy, endearing, because he's genuine. That's the fun thing I liked about it that's not in any of the sequels, is that like he's just genuinely dumb, but he's like well-meaning.
Yes.
And then you as a player get to do dumb shit.
He's dumb but lovable, and it gives you a reason to act like an idiot.
Yeah, because like you just would believe he'd do that shit. It's a fun game. You're just running around the mall killing zombies. I'm sure you've heard of it. Dead Rising's a series at this point. I haven't played any of the other ones besides 2, and 2 wasn't all that good. Some people really love the combo weapons, but I preferred the heart
sort of
one.
ditched the original crew and just started making other games with the name on it, where they gave you a sandbox to fight zombies in.
Basically, that's a good point. Yeah, they gave it to the Canadian branch of Capcom. It's never been the same, but they kept the Servbot heads, so that's cool.
Cool.
No, but Dead Rising 1 I highly recommend. If you've never played it, go on. It's a fun time.
The Xbox 360. Another couple of personal recommendations from me. I am just a big old Valve fanboy, so I'm saying Left 4 Dead 1, Left 4 Dead 2, get all the DLCs for Left 4 Dead 1 or 2, get Left 4 Dead 2, get the Left 4 Dead 1 DLCs where you get to play like 1 with all of the 2 weapons, including all of your melees. Also, I think this counts. Half-Life 1 and 2. They kind of had zombies through the head crabs.
Yeah.
It counts enough. I want to plug the game. It's great. We're never getting a third one, and it's going to hurt me forever.
That made me think of Halo. I really like the Flood.
Ooh, the Flood. I wish they'd have done more with the Flood in Halo.
Yeah, I just remembered that was really cool, because if you like just kind of watch the grunts, you could see them getting infected by the Flood, and that was really funny.
It was awesome. And it was really, really well put together cinematically, even.
Yeah. Trying to think.
Don't play past Reach.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah. I didn't forget World War Z, the book. I personally didn't really like it that much. It wasn't my cup. My brother loved it. So I'd say I'd recommend World War Z. Let me know what you think.
I didn't like World War Z just to get an idea of at least the book.
Yeah. I've also never read Surviving... The what's it called? The Zombie Survival Guide, because I assumed it was also like in the vein of World War Z. What?
That it was kind of just like shticky.
No, I thought it was going to be like a zombie like story, like a story about zombies. But it turned out it was an actual zombie survival guide. Yeah, I had no clue. But I can't honestly recommend either of those because they just weren't my taste. I don't judge you if you liked them.
Yeah.
I recommend watching Max Brooks's YouTube Q&A. It's pretty funny. His Reddit MMA, there's a YouTube video of it. AMA.
Sorry, I was just thinking, was he in a fight? I didn't know.
I'll try to put a link in the description. It's pretty damn funny. I don't think Cody's even seen it yet.
I don't think I have.
Yeah, but I recommend that. Let me know what you think about the Zombie Survival Guide and the World War Z. I think those kind of fall more into the weird other subset of the zombie culture, which are the people who believe the zombie apocalypse is coming.
Yeah.
Can we talk about what were they called? The Zort?
Oh my god, the Zort. Before we do that, I have like a couple of more video game recommendations.
Alright, go ahead.
I play a lot of games. I would recommend, if you have Steam, if you just want to go ahead and have something to play for fun, that's free, it's easy, go ahead and jump on No More Room Left in Hell. No More Room in Hell. I think it's No More Room in Hell. It's a free game, really fun, sort of two-dimensional. It's a blast. I enjoyed it. What else? Any of the COD Zombies series.
Yeah.
Not a huge Call of Duty guy post Modern Warfare 2.
I've never played.
That's where it sort of jumped off for me.
Oh.
But Black Ops Zombies,
dude,
is my shit.
We can't forget Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare.
Oh, Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare. Western Zombies. stellar, really well put together. If you haven't played the Red Dead original itself, play that. But Undead Nightmare is amazing. It's fantastic. It's fucking great. Check it out.
Yeah. Anyway, so do you have anything else, or should I get into the Zort?
We should get into the Zort.
Oh boy. So this isn't a recommendation. This is just for like. Do you want to just end on this?
Yes.
I think this is a good point.
I feel like this is a good way to go out.
This is not a recommendation. The Zort, it also isn't us condemning them, but
we're not condemning them.
The Zort is funny. They're a place where if you've ever seen someone's truck with a zombie
response team like sticker on the front of it,
or decal on the back.
Usually you'll find it on like a Prius.
No, or on a fucking pickup truck.
Yeah, it's either a Prius or a pickup truck. It's either end of the spectrum.
Yeah, and you can buy your way into this organization. Just, their website is the most archaic bullshit I've ever seen. They needlessly have weird capitalizations throughout everything. So, like, a zombie is capital Z, lowercase O, capital M, lowercase BLE. Or no, capital IE. And the entire website's like that. It's
like they're talking in fucking elite speak.
Yeah, not including the fact that there's also random spaces throughout the entire thing. So like the word if has a space in between it, between the I and the F, and it's just weird. My favorite part though is the weird ambiguity as to what they
count like as a zombie.
Yeah, this is a verbatim off the website. A zombie could be anything from a person infected by a pandemic outbreak. Pandemic has a space between the D and the E and the E and the M. Outbreak to a crazy nutjob, criminal, or gangster who wants to hurt your family, steal your food, and preps. The apocalypse could come in the form of a hurricane, earthquake, financial economic collapse, EMP, polar cap shift, terrorist or a terrorist attack, etc., etc., 3 exclamation points.
So basically, if shit goes down, you're allowed to kill whoever you feel like, is what they're trying to say. They're literally preppers that just kind of put zombie in front of it.
Yeah, but it's just...
But I'm not going to say too much shit because I don't want to get shot by one of these guys.
Yeah, the ambiguity of crazy nutjob, criminal, or gangster makes me a little bit uncomfortable. Aside from their horrible capitalization. But,
I feel like that's just because it's trying to scale it down to mobile.
Yeah.
Probably fucks it up.
I've been on the desktop site. It's just as bad.
Oh my god.
It's not the phone's fault. That's not a thing. I took HTML, beginning HTML. That's not a thing that happens. Unless you somehow coded for that, which why the fuck would you do?
Yeah, at least the Flat Earthers have a good website.
Yeah.
And a nice logo.
Yeah, fucking flatter. Okay, so that's it for zombies. I guess that's it for zombies.
It is. I think that's it for zombies. Tell us what you guys think of our recommendations.
And
if you like them, tell us. If you don't like them, tell us. We'll tell you why you're wrong.
We'll have ways for you to tell us in the description. Basically, I think that's it. Yeah, if you made it this far, thanks for listening. Next week, we're going to tackle Flat Earth and the Hollow Earth. Oh boy. But yeah, if you liked anything or gave you a chuckle, tell someone you know about us. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.